Let's just break down Keir Starmer's claim to speaking for the nation. He quite often says, I speak for the nation, I speak for the country. No, you don't. Let me tell you where you really speak from. I can't take credit for this. Somebody called Noddy, who follows me on YouTube, did it all. In reality, 9,704,655 people voted for Labour in this last election. 18,832,783 voted for other parties in total altogether. Reform and the Tories got 10,944,921 votes. That's 1,240,026 votes more than Labour. The turnout was 59.8%, the lowest turnout since 2001, and the second lowest turnout since the last year of the World War, 1945. So only half the country voted. 18 million voted for other parties, I'm rounding it up. 9 million voted for him, and a million more, 1.2 actually million more, voted for Reform and the Tories. So who are you actually speaking for? And let's just not even add the fact that 17.4 million people voted to leave the EU. So when this goon proudly admits that he's going to closely align us with the EU, and America is telling us how difficult it is to trade with Europe because they're a bit of a cartel, and he's dragging us back to this, and you've got Ursula von der Leyen announcing to the world at one of her meetings how they're going to access savers' bank accounts in Europe so they can spend 800 billion on weaponry for a war that doesn't exist yet. And we've got a man taking us closely aligned to this. And for those of you who have a sort of supercilious attitude to Brexit voters, who think it's somehow an intelligence test, it's an IQ test, let me simplify it for you, because you've spent too much time in institutions and scientists for EU and all these people that think it's so bloody marvellous. A chunk of money left this country and went to the European Union. Then a chunk of money, less than that amount, about half of it, came back through the various funding lobbies that you've relied on for your scientific stuff, for intelligence, doesn't matter what the label is. X amount went out and a lesser amount came back. So whatever money you sent to us and whichever funds it went on, it was our money in the first place. If you gave your kid 10 quid and he spent 5 quid on a present for you, who's really paid for it? It's that simple. So it's nothing to do with intelligence, is it? In fact, you have to be double numb with common sense to not even get it. People wanted to leave the European Union because we're paying for 650 MPs to sit there in Westminster, most of them useless. Most of them can't even understand the WHO pandemic treaty, and yet they've signed up to it. They think it's a good idea. We've had Tony Blair, who's basically diverted our democracy to quangos and non-government organisations like the WHO, so that even our voters become worthless. Because when we vote for a party, half of the things that they're inflicting on us come from non-government organisations and quangos, which is how it was supposed to be. Tony Blair was the smartest Prime Minister we've ever had. That doesn't mean I like him. It doesn't mean I agree with what he did. It means he was smart, because he changed the way the country ran. He changed farming, he changed politics, he changed the civil service, he went to war when we didn't want him to, allegedly looking for weapons of mass destruction, and came back with 2 catapults and a slingshot. So not exactly what you call a reliable type. But again, he's had the Charlemagne Prize for working closely with Europe to work towards the federalisation of Europe, which means you can't get out of it. Now we've got Starmer, we're out but we're in, the okey-cokey Prime Minister, who's having us so closely aligned we might as well have been in. But the worst of it is that not only are we so closely aligned, it's going to cost us more money, because they're already asking for more money towards this military might that they want to create. Remember Nick Clegg telling you there was no such thing as a European army? Oh, no. And then he went and got a plum job at Facebook on about $10 million a year, where he had the audacity and the nerve and the smugness to ban a serving president who hadn't done anything wrong. Same for that bearded twit on Twitter who banned a serving president. I can never got over that. How dare you? How dare you? Who the hell do you people think you are? You got lucky. You got lucky because the internet came and social media came. You got lucky and you think you can rule the roost. Well, sadly, somebody with a bit of a more rational view on life has taken over Twitter, called Elon Musk, and TikTok has an awful lot of information on you wouldn't normally see. And Zuckerberg's had his wings clipped because President Trump's won a second term. If you're worried about Keir Starmer, we're living through our Biden years where we have to suffer the insufferable. We have to get through it. And then we have to get out of it at the other side. We have to make sure that this man does not get a second term. You can see the damage he's done in such a short space of time. But the good news is that Starmer cannot dictate anymore to 10 quite large and substantial councils across the country because someone's come back into politics that's made a difference. There's a lot of naysayers that discredit this man for saying, oh, he did this and he did that to me 10 years ago and I had this and he took that. And all I'm saying is I've looked at your videos and I've looked at what you've said and you haven't got the charisma to have pulled off what he's pulled off. You just haven't got what it takes. And whatever you think you had and he took away from you, if that was me, he wouldn't have took it off me because I'd have gone forward anyway and done it myself. And you didn't. You just sat back, did nothing and waited to come to the forefront when something finally that we can grab hold of is happening to this country. Something that's actually got a result. 5 MPs sitting in Parliament and 10 council controls. Not to mention other councillors in other councils where there isn't actual ultimate control. And you can't see that that's a step forward. Some actual statistician, I'll point out, that got it wrong in 2019 with the election, says that Nigel Farage must go. Are you absolutely bonkers? Can't you see what happens? This is a man, by the way, every time somebody unearths some earth-shattering news about him, or how dreadful he is, doesn't come back and fight. He lets you say it all. Nobody's perfect. I'm not looking at this as a fan, as I'm often accused of. I'm looking at this practically. And practically what I see is a lot of moaning minis that are around him. That, oh, I never got a chance because he doesn't like anyone to outshine him. A lot of you wouldn't have outshone him. A lot of you are dull. Dull. Too dull to have pulled off what he's pulled off. Nobody would have listened to you. It's that simple. I can't believe how self-centred people are in allowing their lives to have allegedly failed and been controlled because someone else's was a success. That would not happen to me. I would not let that happen. It's happened in business where I've set up a new business and somebody established, and I remember it the day vividly. He pulled up in a Rolls Royce outside my establishment, walked in, walked around, had a look at what I was doing, doffed his hat and said, good luck with your little enterprise. The business will soon come back to me. And I just said, remember my face because it's going to be around a long time. And in that single moment, I thought, I'll have you. I'll have you. You won't get the better of me. And we ended up buying his buildings. So there you go. It can be done. You need a willingness and a determination to succeed. And I am sick of these people coming out of the woodwork nitpicking when this is the furthest forward we've been for 2 decades. And what you've got to look at is those figures I've just read out to you about the voting public in this last election are a clear sign that the country didn't want Starmer. 9 million people, and probably 6.5 of them are in bloody London, wanted Starmer. And that'll be made up of civil servants and the lovies. The champagne socialists. The people who are heading the quangos. The people who are working in the quangos. That's who will have voted for Starmer. You can soon get the numbers up. And he talks like he's talking about the country. Well, you're not. You're not. You're talking about 10 million people out of 67 million. Most of the Muslims have rejected you. You can't even keep them happy and you've caved over backwards for them. You've bent over backwards. Can I build a mosque? Yeah, make it 10 times the size it should have been. Why not? As long as it's not in your backyard. You've absolutely sold this country down the road to the EU. And we have to pay for 650 loons in Westminster. We have to pay for all their expenses. The House of Lords. We have to pay for another 750 in Parliament in the EU. That's when we were in. Not to mention the film star salaries of the EU Commission. Accounts, expense accounts that don't even have to be quantified. You could put down that you've just spent 500 quid on a meal and claim it back, and nobody wants to see a receipt. And that's what you're taking us closer to. They're that good. They're that good at the EU that they've run out of bloody money under quantitative easing. How can you even do that? They've run out of money. They're going to have to access savers' bank accounts on some false promissory note that, oh, we'll make it work for you. You couldn't make the taxes you've drawn off people work for you. You couldn't make bleeding Germany and Britain dry work for you. You've ended up skint. You've had access to easy money. You haven't had to work for it. All you've had to do is go to a quality hairdresser, Ursula, buy some smart suits, turn out and use other people's money to fund vanity projects, not to mention the benefits you've had from possible investments that you get privy to. And you're that bad at what you do. You're that bad. You've actually suggested entering savers' accounts to take the money out, and you're actually trying to tell people who have probably scrimped and saved to accrue something for their old age or whatever that you're going to make a better job of their money than they did. Well, why haven't you got any money left? And this idiot, this absolute drone of a man, is taking us closer to that because it's some batshit crazy communist ideology that he believes in. And it is a communist form. Gorbachev said it. Gorbachev said, you can Google it, he cannot understand the obsession of Western politicians wanting to recreate the Soviet Union in Europe. That's basically it. That's not verbatim, look it up, but that's what he said. He saw it for what it was. And this admirer of communism is dragging us back to it. He has no thought for anyone else. He's drunk on power. He's an abomination of a man. We've got people in prison for tweets and paedophiles being let out. What sort of country does that? We've got people cancelling trips here because they don't think it's safe. And can you blame them? Somebody walked past my house. I'm in a quiet place. I'm in a village. Somebody walked past my house yesterday. A migrant, off his head on something, screaming, with a backpack on. And I just thought, I never thought I'd see this in this village. That's just one. God help me in the cities. Because these places aren't even being run properly. They've depleted the police. We've got 23,000 less police than when the Oldham riots kicked off in 2011. How are we doing? With a growing population. We've got less beds in the NHS. With a growing population, 20,000 beds, thanks to the Tories. How are we doing? We've got people claiming, let's save our NHS. Everything to do with subcontracting. And they're even using private hospitals to keep up with the flow of treatment that they need to do because they shut the place down for months on end. What idiot thought it was a good idea to close hospitals to sort one virus out that happened to make one drug firm $100 billion in 12 months that previously took them 20 years to make 40 billion? Can you see how it all correlates together as a bloody mess? It's a mess. And that's why I do this, and that's why I fight. Because I can't stand to see it just happen. At least I've got to do my bit. And if I can talk to people and get them to talk to other people, don't you be sitting there thinking that he talks for this country. You've heard the statistics. I've written them on my socials. He doesn't speak for the country. He speaks for 10 million people. And I would suggest a huge amount of those regret it. From my Auntie Frida to Elton John, they're regretting it. Elton John's come out and slagging him off. Owen Jones has been slagging him off. Even Carol Vorderman's been slagging him off. So if the left are slagging him off, who's he pleasing? Just the European Union, run by idiots who are placed into position. You don't vote for the European Commission They select from within. They choose their men. It absolutely sickens me. I can't believe we've got to go through all this again, as we did with Brexit. All idiots coming out calling people who voted for Brexit thick. We're not thick. We just understand that to run 67 million people, you don't need to pay for a government and pay for another government to make sure that government's running it the way this government wants. No, we don't need that. We've never needed that. We didn't even vote to go in it. We were taken in illegally. It was initially a common market. That's what it was called, the common market. A trading bloc. And Maggie wouldn't sign the Maastricht Treaty. So guess what the Tories did? They got rid of her. Tories did that. The Tories got rid of Maggie. And they placed John Major in there. And guess who John Major is? John Major's a guardian of the two young princes from the royal family. See how it all knits together? And then you've got King Charles, who should be the head of the country, defender of the faith, plural. And King Charles, who is basically woke, green. And his son, William, is in, it's called the Earthshot, is it? That thing that they've set up with Jacinda Ardern, who locked New Zealand down. New Zealand's rejected so many of her policies that she locked New Zealand down like a gulag. And she's working with the prince. See how it all knits together? You know, you weren't allowed to leave your house, but Black Lives Matter could have a 50,000 strong demonstration. Please tell me that you see what's wrong. Please tell me that this isn't normal. I'm just saying all this because it needs to be said. And Keir Starmer is gloating on his own glory. He's the worst Prime Minister in my entire life. And I would think beyond those years. So know it. He's not some glory boy. He's not someone to be proud of. I cringe when he goes on the world stage. Has he ever said anything that feels like he means it? I'm talking to you now. Do you think I mean it? As I'm talking to you now, do you think I mean what I'm saying? Doesn't matter whether you agree with it. Think I mean it. Do you think he means it? Or is it just delivering lines? And do you know why Farage does well? Because he means it. When he's talking to you, he means it. And that's the difference. And unless there's something really fabulous comes to light, and there won't be, because there isn't time, that's why I support something I think can work. And you've only got to look at the statistics. 10 councils in their control, and councillors peppered throughout other councils. You're forgetting about them. This is a historical thing that's happened. It's more important than the 5 MPs in the House. And there'll be other by-elections, and I predict they'll be just as successful. So whilst this is a bit of a rant, I'm sorry, but I can't believe we're going through all this again with the European Union. So much work, 10 years of work. And guess what? You're in for such a bloody shock. Because 10 years ago, when I was talking to people, I got 5,000 people to vote that weren't even going to vote. I only have 4,000 followers. Come this next election, you're going to see a completely different place. You're going to see a record turnout. And I believe they'll vote for reform. Because we can't trust the Tories. If you were trustworthy, you wouldn't have given power away. You wouldn't have given it away. If you meant what you're saying with Jenrick and all the rest of them, and Pretty and Kemi, then you'd have kept hold of power and started putting those actions into place, wouldn't you? You'd have done it. But you didn't. You handed it over. You went, there you go. There's the country. You have a go at running it, because we don't really like it now. We've locked it up. You have a go. The uni party, keep swapping sides. Well, you don't fool us anymore. We've got a third option. And anybody who says that's controlled opposition, why do they need to give you anything? Why do they need to give you a third option? They've got control. Have you missed the fact that the King's very weth-minded? Have you missed the fact that Keir Starmer's taken us to the EU? They've got control. They don't care what you think. They're not bothered about what you think. Does a farmer bother about what the sheep think? Do you think, I don't want to take them to market, tell them what the sheep think? No, just get them in the trailer and buggers off. That's where you sit in your country today. They're not bothered about what you think. So you can forget thinking Nigel Farage is going to take all this abuse because he's some sort of third party that we must resurrect this, get it going, and give people something to think they can rely on. Why? You've got control. You wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. That's stupid. It's just a stupid thought. And at the end of the day, they've had control quite a long time, at least 20 odd years. And all that's happened is recently, in recent times, people have had the access to the internet and the facility to share their thoughts, opinions and findings through social media. That's the bit that's changed. That's the bit the politicians didn't expect. That's the bit that will change politics. And we are living through our Biden years. You don't need Elon Musk's money. You don't need anybody lobbying. All that will happen, people will have had enough of being poorer and not having jobs and not having any hope, and young people not being able to get on the property ladder because they're giving homes away to migrants. People will be up to here with it by the next election, and you'll see record numbers voting.